of our students. Our Collier said, and I quote, "Success is the sum of small efforts repeated." Let me see the hands of the people who make small efforts every day to do something well. I do as well. Thank you. And with that, I encourage you to continue working hard because your hard work will definitely be rewarded. I will just give a breakdown of how the awards will be done today and what awards will be given for. So we will have certificates given for academic attainment and progress, and I will just break that down. Students will receive attainment award for working at the expected standard for year 6 or greater depth standard, which means working above the expected standard for year 6. Attainment will be given in the following areas: mathematics, science, English, which will be further broken down into reading, writing, and SPAG. Spanish, music, computing, and PE. Progress awards will be given for progress made between June 2023 and December 2023. And this will be in the following areas: mathematics, English, which will be further broken down into reading, writing, and SPAG. Other special awards will be given for school improvement, attendance, and star award. School improvement award will be given to students who have represented the school in extracurricular activities. Perfect attendance award will be awarded based on regularity and punctuality. This means never absent, never late, never left school early. And that's for term 1. Star awards will be given for students who display exemplary behavior as it relates to the STAR program. And we know what the STAR acronym means: safe, trustworthy, achiever, responsible, respectful. The highest in that would be the platinum certificate, which is 60 merit points, gold certificate, which is 45 merit points, silver certificate, which is 30 merit points, and bronze certificate, which is 15 merit points. So there we go with a breakdown of our awards for today. I will invite Mr. Pedley to help us to give these awards out. And I will invite Mr. Clarke to come first. Waterfall. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Awards for year 6 Clarke. Johnsby Barrios Orilana. Greater depth in Spanish and PE. Okay, keep the applause until after. Greater depth in Spanish and PE expected in mathematics, GAPS, PIRA, computing and science. Progress in GAPS, writing. For school improvement, he represented the school in football and basketball. Bronze certificate. Rodri Brown. Expected standards in GAPS, PE, and Spanish. Progress in GAPS and writing. School involvement, basketball. Bronze certificate. Yamileth Burke, greater depth in gaps, mathematics, expected standard in Spanish, mathematics, reading, PE, progress in gaps, Puma, Pira, and writing. Chase Bush, who is absent, expected standard in gaps, music, PE, and Spanish, progress in gaps, and Puma. Raheem Cameron, greater depth in computing and PE, expected standards in gaps, Pira, Puma, music, and Spanish, progress in gaps, Puma, writing, school involvement, football, and basketball. Sydney Carlson, greater depth in gaps, computing, and science, expected in Puma, Pira, PE, Spanish, and writing. Elise Connor, expected standard in gaps, Spanish, PE, music, and science, progress in gaps and writing, Star Bronze certificate. Janelle Ewers, greater depth in computing and PE, expected in gaps, Spanish, music, science, progress in gaps, Pira, writing, school involvement, netball. Yuvraj Graham Campbell, greater depth in gaps, PE, and computing, expected standard in Puma, Pira, music, and Spanish, progress in Pira, Puma, writing, perfect attendance, school involvement, football. Josiah Johnson, expected standard in gaps, Spanish, PE, and computing, progress in Pira and gaps. Thiago Machado, greater depth in gaps, computing, PE, and Spanish, expected standard in Puma, music, and science, progress in gaps, Puma, school involvement, football, and basketball. Kemisha Malcolm, expected standard in gaps, PE, Spanish, and science, progress in gaps and writing, school involvement, netball. Malik Maraj, greater depth in gaps, PE, computing, expected standard in Puma, Spanish, music, science, progress in Puma, gaps, and writing. Araya Miles, expected standard in Spanish, PE, music, progress in Pira, gaps, writing. Braylon Oliver, greater depth in gaps, PE, computing, expected standard in Pira, Puma, Spanish, science, progress in gaps, Puma, Pira, writing, school involvement, football. Vinaya Pantan. Leave the applause until after. No clapping now? Thank you. Vinaya, expected standard in Spanish and PE, progress in gaps and Pira. Theodore Pollard. Theodore Pollard. Greater depth in computing, expected standard in Puma, PIRA, GAPS, PE, and Science, Spanish Star Award, Brands. Azari Powell. Please leave the applause until the end. Expected standard in GAPS, PE, Spanish, Science, progress in GAPS, and writing. Okay, thank you. Caden Powell. Greater depth in GAPS, expected in Puma, Spanish, PE, Computing and Science, progress in GAPS, Puma, PIRA, and writing. Janika Rankin. Expected standard in Puma, GAPS, PE, and Spanish. Progress in Puma, GAPS, writing, school involvement, football, Star Brands certificate. Tian Reed. Greater depth in GAPS and computing, expected standard in PIRA, Puma, PE, and Spanish. Progress in GAPS, PIRA, Puma, writing, perfect attendance. Swaby. Greater depth in PE, expected in Spanish. School involvement include football. Christian Silburn. Greater depth in GAPS, expected standard in computing and PE, progress in GAPS, PIRA, and writing. Leah Tibbetts. Expected standard in GAPS, Spanish, music, PE, computing science, progress in Puma, GAPS, writing, school involvement, basketball. Malia Watler. Greater depth in computing, expected standard in music, PE, Spanish, science, progress in Puma, GAPS, PIRA, writing, school involvement, netball. And finally, Tyler Young James. Greater depth in computing, expected standard in GAPS and PE, school involvement, basketball. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon again, everyone. I will be reading out the awards for year 6 Erskine, and I ask that you hold your applause until all the students of 6 Erskine have received their awards. Okay? So we begin with Gabriel Anderson. Gabriel receives awards for being expected in maths, reading, science, and Spanish, greater depth in SPAG, Star Bronze certificate, and school involvement as well. Kobe Barbaram, expected in maths, SPAG, science, ICT, Spanish, and PE, progress in maths and SPAG. Guys, hold the applause until all the students have received. Do not applaud when an individual student has received an award, okay? Kiara Barnes, expected in PE. Jenzi Bennett, greater depth in Spanish and ICT, expected in SPAG, music, and PE, Star Bronze Award. Zay Christian, greater depth in ICT, expected level in reading, SPAG, science, Spanish, and PE, progress in reading, SPAG and writing, Bronze Star Award. Joanna Clarke, greater depth in PE, expected in Puma, Pira, and GAPS, science and Spanish, progress in writing, school involvement award. Dimitri Davis, expected in Puma, science, Spanish, ICT, music, and PE, progress in maths, perfect attendance award, Star Bronze certificate. Malachi Eden, greater depth in Puma, GAPS, and ICT, greater depth in PE, expected in Pira, science, music, and Spanish, progress in reading and SPAG, school involvement award, and he receives a Star Bronze award as well. Maria Fredericks. Maria receives certificates for being greater depth in ICT, expected in GAPS, science, and PE, progress in SPAG. Caden Hilton. Caden receives awards for being at greater depth in PE, expected in Pira, GAPS, science, music, and Spanish, and for making progress in reading. He also receives the Star Bronze Award. Shamreel Knight. Shamreel receives awards for being at greater depth in ICT, expected in Puma, PE, and Spanish, and for making progress in mathematics. Liam McLean. Liam receives awards for being expected in Pira, PE, and Spanish, making progress in math, GAPS, and reading. Angel Mejia Peraza, expected in Spanish, music, and PE, progress in maths, reading, and writing. Elizabeth Miles Douglas. Elizabeth receives awards for being at greater depth in PE and for making progress in GAPS. She also receives awards for school involvement, namely basketball and netball. Antonio Oswald. Antonio receives awards for being expected in Puma, GAPS, Science, Spanish, and PE, and for making progress in reading. Matthew Parchment. Matthew receives awards for being at greater depth in ICT, expected in PIRA, GAPS, Science, PE, Spanish, and for making progress in reading and writing. He also receives a Star Bronze Award. Caden Parsons. Caden receives awards for being at greater depth in PE and ICT, expected in Spanish, for making progress in maths, reading and gaps, perfect attendance. He also receives a Star Bronze Award. Drake Scott Arias. Drake is expected in Puma, GAPS, PIRA, ICT, Spanish, music, and PE. He also receives awards for making progress in reading, gaps, and writing, and he receives a Star Bronze Award. Sharon Scott. Sharon receives awards for being at greater depth in ICT. She's expected in Puma, GAPS, PIRA, Science, Music, Spanish, and PE, making progress in reading, gaps, and writing. She receives a Star Bronze Award as well. Zoe Silburn. Zoe is expected in SPAG, Spanish, and PE, and she receives awards as well for making progress in gaps. She also receives a Bronze Star Award. Gabriel Stoll. Gabriel receives certificates for being at greater depth in maths, ICT, expected in SPAG, Science, PE, music, and Spanish, for making progress in maths, reading, and gaps. He also receives awards for school involvement and a Bronze Star certificate. Jonathan Thomas. Jonathan is awarded for being at expected in ICT, PE, and Spanish. Victoria Tijani. Victoria receives certificates for being expected in science, PE, music, and Spanish. She also receives awards for school involvement and a Bronze Star Award. Naomi Tobot. Naomi receives an award for being at expected in PE, and she also receives a Star Bronze certificate. Layla Whitaker. Layla receives awards for being at greater depth in SPAG and ICT, expected in Puma, PIRA, Science, PE, and Music, and for making progress in maths, reading, and gaps. Jalen Wood Seymour. Jalen receives awards for being at expected in PE and Spanish, and for making progress in SPAG. She also receives a school involvement certificate. Thank you. Could you give the students of Year 6 Erskine a round of applause, please? Mrs. Elliot.
Thank you, Mr. Erskine. Now for 6 Elliot, and I will go in alphabetical order, and I will also ask for you to kindly hold the applause until all students from the class has collected their certificates or their awards. Thank you. Ali Christian. Greater depth standard in PE, greater depth standard in computing, expected in GAPS, science, music, Spanish, progress in reading, writing, and SPAG, school improvement, netball, and she also has perfect attendance. Joanna Clarke, attainment, expected standard in GAPS, and progress in SPAG. Alfonso Ebanks, expected standard in GAPS, reading, science, music, Spanish, and PE, progress in reading, writing, and SPAG, school improvement, football. Caden Ebanks, attainment, greater depth standard in PE, expected in GAPS, mathematics, Spanish, progress in reading, writing, SPAG, and mathematics, school improvement, football, and basketball. Catalina Hackett, expected standard in music and PE. Zenobia Husang, expected standard in GAPS, music, Spanish, and PE, progress in writing and SPAG, school improvement, netball, basketball, and a Star Bronze Award. Kenzie Jackson, greater depth standard in computing, expected in reading, writing, science, music, Spanish, PE, progress in reading, writing, mathematics, school improvement, netball, and basketball, Star Bronze Award. Samara Kentish, greater depth standard in GAPS, greater depth standard in computing, expected in reading, writing, mathematics, science, music, Spanish, and PE. And for her, she's a new student, so we wouldn't have her progress. She also has a Star Bronze Award and perfect attendance. Ersin Lawrence, expected standard in Spanish and PE. Mikhail McLaughlin, greater depth standard in computing, expected standard in GAPS, expected standard in mathematics, science, music, Spanish, and PE, progress in writing, SPAG, and mathematics, school improvement, football. Rihanna Moore, she receives greater depth standard in GAPS, greater depth standard in computing, expected standard in reading, writing, mathematics, science, music, PE, Spanish, progress in reading, writing, SPAG, and mathematics, school improvement, basketball, Star Bronze Award. Shakur Morris, attainment, expected standard in GAPS, expected standard in reading, Spanish, PE, computing, progress in reading and SPAG. Vincent Muirhead, greater depth standard in PE, greater depth standard in computing, expected standard in GAPS, reading, writing, mathematics, science, Spanish, progress in reading, writing, SPAG, and mathematics, and school improvement, football, and basketball. Jay Smiles, for attainment, greater depth standard in computing, expected standard in gaps, progress in reading, writing, SPAG, and mathematics, and also PE, and school improvement football. He also has perfect attendance. Khalid Pandoui. Khalid has greater depth standard in computing, expected standard in mathematics, science, music, Spanish, and PE, progress in reading, writing, SPAG, and mathematics, school improvement football, bronze award for star. Travaldo Prendergast, expected standard in PE. Travaldo is also a new student. Thank you. Jimmy is absent today, but he receives attainment in Spanish and PE, progress in writing, SPAG, and mathematics. Brooklyn Russell. Brooklyn achieves greater depth in gaps, greater depth in reading, greater depth in mathematics, greater depth in computing, expected standard in writing, science, music, Spanish, and PE, progress in reading, writing, SPAG, and mathematics, and Star Award, bronze. Kayla Scott Campbell. Attainment, expected standard in music, Spanish, PE, computing, progress in writing and mathematics, school improvement, netball, Star Bronze Award. Isaiah Silburn. Greater depth standard in computing, expected standard in reading, Spanish, PE, progress in reading and writing. Zaya Paul, greater depth standard in PE, expected standard in science, progress in writing, SPAG, mathematics, and music, school improvement, netball, and basketball, Star Award, bronze. Kaylee Thomas. Greater depth standard in gaps, expected standard in reading, writing, mathematics, science, music, Spanish, and PE, progress in reading, writing, SPAG, and mathematics, Star Bronze Award. Trinity Whitaker. Expected standard in music, Spanish, and PE, progress in writing, and Star Bronze Award. Cassidy Woods. Greater depth standard in gaps, greater depth standard in reading, greater depth standard in mathematics, greater depth standard in computing, expected standard in writing, expected standard in science, music, Spanish, and PE, progress in reading, writing, SPAG, and mathematics, school improvement, netball, and also perfect attendance. Thank you. That is it for 6 Elliot. I'm sure you are all proud of your achievement, and I want to take this opportunity to wish you all the best for term 2. And I want to leave you with this quote from Malcolm X. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. So keep excelling and keep living up to the school's motto, which is? Okay, we're going to stand quietly for the national song. Okay, before the national song, Mr. Pedley will... Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. All right, so we will do the national song, and I'm sure we all know how to stand for our national song. Thank you. Thank you. You may be seated.